Welcome to episode 5 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Last week, the Parkers welcomed a new baby girl into their household, but Mary is extremely weak and not out of the woods. Charlotte and Alison do what they can to keep Mary comfortable and to help with the children. On Sunday after Christmas, on a warm day for winter, Alison and Charlotte take the 4 Parker children to the park. Alison pushes James in the baby carriage, while Charlotte takes the other 3 to the pond to watch them launch their paper boats. Alison encounters Mr. Stringer as she pushes the pram along the path by herself.
Good day to you, Miss Alison.
Alison smiles. Then she remembers Miss Griffith's advice and answers in a cold voice.
Good day.
It's a fine day to bring out the perambulator. We never know when we'll get a sunny one out this time of year.
Indeed.
And how are you this fine day?
Well,
but not very well? And what would it take to turn Miss Alison Heywoods well into a very well, do you suppose?
a great deal, I think.
A great deal? And I was hoping it might be a matter of finding a penny in the grass, or finding the first snowdrop, or finding a friend in the park.
I wish it were that simple, Mr. Stringer.
Perhaps it is that simple, miss. Or perhaps not.
Charlotte will be wondering where I am. Thank you, Mr. Stringer.
For what?
For trying to make me feel better.
Do you feel better?
A little better.
Not very well?
No, not yet.
We'll have to work on that.
Good day, Mr. Stringer.
Good day, miss.
Was that Mr. Stringer?
Yes?
These Sunday walks in the parks are getting to be a habit of his.
It seems as if he comes on purpose to meet us.
Is there anything wrong with that? I expect he's lonely here in London.
Mrs. Griffith says we must not encourage him.
Why did she say that?
He might be tempted to think more highly of himself than he ought. She thinks he may try to pay his addresses to one of us.
Would that be so wrong? I would say he cannot think too highly of himself. He has a very fine mind. He will distinguish himself in architecture one day, I'm sure of it. We'll see what Mrs. Griffith says then.
What makes you say that?
He showed me the plans he drew up for Sanditon. He had only Tom's suggestions and Hargreaves' book to inspire him, but his designs are breathtaking, even without any formal training. I would call him visionary.
He sounds a bit like our grandpa.
Yes. I think the next generation of Stringers will live a great deal better than the last, just as it was for Papa.
You don't agree with Mrs. Griffiths, then? That we ought not to converse with him?
Mrs. Griffiths is trying to steer her pupils away from alliances to which their parents would object. She sees him only as a stones mason. There's a great deal more to him than that.
The next day, Lady Denham and Susanna Parker are helped into a coach in front of Park Place.
Where shall we go first, Lady Denham?
I need to buy a pair of gloves. Where might I find some?
Oh, Lovelaces will suit your taste, I am sure. They have a beautiful selection of gloves, as well as the finest silk stockings in London.
Miss Parker, I need only the name of a shop, not a recitation of their trading card.
I only meant...
I have already decided to buy gloves. I do not need 50 words when 5 will do.
The silenced Miss Parker looks out of the window and bites her lip in aggravation. She sees her sister hurrying along the sidewalk, waves to her and signals for the carriage to stop.
Sister, where are you going?
To the apothecary to get something for Morgan.
Of course it's some distance. Let us take you.
Diana climbs into the carriage.
Good day, Lady Denham.
Good morning.
Is Morgan ill?
It's his gout again, poor man. I read about a new treatment in the paper, so young Mr. Jonas has ordered it for me.
Gout. Some people have good imaginations. Sir Harry never had any gout, and he lived to be 80.
The coach pulls up at an apothecary shop bearing the name of Jonas Brothers. Diana hops out.
As long as we're here, I suppose I might buy some lavender water.
They have some very pretty bottles of D.R. Harris lavender water.
I prefer Steele's.
Inside the shop, a young man tends the counter. He goes into the back office to check on his ageing father, ironically called young Mr. Jonas, as the shop was started by his father before him. He sits close to the fire, working on account books at a small table between his bouts of coughing fits.
Father, why do you not go to bed? You're making yourself worse.
Plenty of time to sleep when I die, son. Even then, someone will manage to wake me up.
Don't tell me that you are answering the door at night. Who is bothering you now?
It's usually one Parker or another. No matter. It's all a part of the business. People think nothing of waking the apothecary when they cannot sleep themselves.
I would put a stop to that if I were here.
I know you would, son. It was good of you to come today, but I cannot allow you to put your work on hold for me. I will find a way to keep going. The Parkers are good customers. I must keep all my customers if I am to stay open. The shop has made it 60 years, and my father went through harder things than a pesky cough. I mean to stay the course.
Ben shakes his head in disbelief at his father's stubbornness and returns to the counter as Lady Denham and Diana enter the shop.
Good morning, ma'am. How may I be of assistance?
I would like some Steele's lavender water, if you please.
I'm sorry, we do not carry that particular brand, but we do have Harris's. It's very nice.
I would like Steele's.
But we do not have it, madam.
But it is the only kind I like. I bought 12 bottles at a shop in Bath some time ago. They were such a good price, and now I am out. So, where may I find some Steele's?
Perhaps you should try Bath, madam.
You, sir, are most impertinent. Bath, indeed. I do not see how you stay in business when you treat your customers thus.
We stay in business by selling great quantities of D.R. Harris's lavender water. Would you like to try some?
Well, I suppose.
The clerk opens a bottle and hands it to Lady Denham, who samples a few drops by dabbing it on her wrist.
Suppose it is all right.
Very good, madam. That will be 5 shillings.
Good heavens! It cannot cost that much. That's highway robbery.
Oh, but Lady Denham, it is the very best lavender water in London, and I've always known the prices here to be fair.
We must make a little profit, madam.
You must be making a great deal of profit, for I only paid 3 for it last time.
If you would like it cheaper, you might buy it directly from Harris's. Shall I give you their address?
A long coughing fit erupts from young Mr. Jonas as a warning to Ben. Diana looks towards the back room with anxiety for the cougher. Lady Denham appears to have heard nothing.
No, thank you. I will take 1 bottle today, and that is all. Such insolent attempts to drive away business I have never seen. I am most seriously displeased.
Here you are, madam. To whose account shall I charge it?
Please, Lady Denham, put it on our. It is a trifling amount. It will be one less account to settle before you leave town.
That is very kind, very hospitable.
Lady Denham looks at the clerk with a conspiratory smile.
I should have ordered 2 bottles. I shall wait for you in the carriage, Miss Diana.
Lady Denham leaves the shop.
I'm sorry if she gave you any trouble. I like Harris's best, after my own recipe.
What is the name on the account?
Diana Parker?
Parker, you say?
Yes. Now here is my list. I thought it would be easier if I wrote it all down. There are several things I need this week.
How efficient of you, miss. I'm sorry you have the need for so many remedies.
Thank you. My brother and I, and my eldest sister, suffer from many various complaints. Exanthemas, agues. Well, Mr. Jonas is well aware of our maladies.
And yet you look the picture of health.
Thank you. Oh, but believe me, I do not feel it. I assure you. Is young Mr. Jonas in?
Not today. May I be of some assistance?
I thought perhaps he was in the back?
He is indisposed today, miss, and very tired due to the midnight calls of his patrons.
Oh dear, indeed. I am sorry to hear it. It's just that I had placed an order for autumn crocus, and I wondered if it had arrived.
The clerk looks through the shelves and drawers with perfunctory effort, but finds nothing labelled for Parker.
I'm afraid it is not here yet.
He said it would arrive yesterday?
No, I'm sorry. Perhaps you can come back in a day or 2.
Might you check with Mr. Jonas?
No, I will not.
Why ever not?
Because he is very ill, unlike some hypochondriacs half his age who fancy themselves so.
I beg pardon. I need it for my brother's...
Your brother is just as pathetic when it comes to conjuring up false conditions. Do you want some sound medical advice? Go off all potions, all herbs, witch doctor remedies, and whatever lichens, fungi, or molds that you deem medicinal for an entire 12-month. And then see if you do not feel as good as you look.
Well, I do not know what I've done to offend you, young man. I shall call back tomorrow when I hope Mr. Jonas is feeling better. Good day.
Diana leaves the shop in a huff. Mr. Jonas calls his son into the back office.
Ben,
Yes, father?
I cannot afford to be sick if you're going to drive off all of the customers. Here, run this out to Miss Parker. It just came in this morning and I had not labeled it yet. She needs it for one of their servants. Well, go on.
Ben takes the package and hurries out to the carriage, arriving just as the door closes. He raps on it, opens it, and dumps it in the lap of Diana Parker.
Found it.
Without another word, he closes the door abruptly and hurries back into the shop. Several days later, Susanna and Diana come to visit Mary. Charlotte is holding the newborn by Mary's bedside, while Mary rests.
How is she today?
She has slept all morning.
Poor dear. May I hold the baby?
Of course.
Now, Charlotte, I brought some nettle and ginger for Mary's tea. Will you see she gets a cup at breakfast and dinner?
I will try to remember.
The wet nurse comes in to get the baby.
Excuse me, Mum. It's time the baby was fed.
Mrs. Mifflin, what cream have you been using on your face?
Cream? I do not use any cream.
Then you must begin. I have just the recipe to cure your acne. Spermaceti and lard jelly.
Sperma what?
It's made from the brain of a sperm whale.
Not everyone is as open to using whale brains as you are, Diana.
But it does so much good. You see how it quite carried away Arthur's pimples?
Well, I don't know, miss.
Mrs. Mufflin reaches for the baby, while Tom and the new young doctor appear at the door.
We'll make you some, and bring it next time. Spermaceti is what all the ladies of high fashion use.
But one lady does not constitute all, Diana.
I do not think it hurts for Mrs. Mifflin to try, Susanna. Charlotte, you will not forget Mary's nettle tea?
I'll not forget.
Oh, and I brought a vial of laudanum for Miss Allison, to help her sleep at night.
Oh, thank you.
Well, well, it looks like this is the new gathering place. Hello, my dears. I have brought Dr. Ford's protege to see Mary. How is she?
The group of ladies part to allow the doctor to come to Mary's bedside.
Mr. Parker, your wife clearly needs to rest in quiet. It will be best to clear the sick room of everyone but the nurse. This is not a ladies' club room.
Of course, Doctor.
The women start to file out, followed at last by Mrs. Mifflin, whom the doctor stops at the door to give her a private word.
Mrs. Mifflin, I do not advise spermaceti cream. A moderate diet, fresh air, and daily washing in cold water will do your skin infinitely more good than smearing lard on it.
Yes, Doctor.
He looks at the group of ladies with a disapproving glance and gets ready to close the door. With a look clearly meant for Diana, he says,
The nettle tea I will allow. Ladies, Mrs. Parker will be better served if you had your conversations elsewhere. If you will excuse me, I will examine the patient.
Might one of my sisters or Miss Heywoods stay with us?
I will stay, Tom.
As long as you allow me to do the prescribing.
Why, of course, Doctor.
After the examination, Dr. Jonas, Tom and Diana come out of Mary's room, and Diana shuts the door.
How do you find her, Doctor?
She's weak, to be sure, but with continued rest and plenty of fluids and sustenance, I have hope for a full recovery.
Would it help to send home for some seawater?
Seawater? I think not yet. Tea and broth for now. Do you live by the sea?
Oh, in the burgeoning resort of Sanditon. We have the latest in bathing machines, a lovely hotel, and the most beautiful beach that you have ever had the pleasure of walking. It is breathtaking, is it not, Diana?
Yes, indeed, Tom. And the water's so invigorating. I have never had any illness of consequence until we moved from Sanditon to London.
That is quite a discerning observation. Have you thought of moving back to Sanditon, Miss Parker?
Oh, no. The gales have become too much for me in the winter.
I'm a great proponent for fresh air and sea bathing, but I'm afraid the popular seaside towns are places where such quantities of alcohol and good dinners quite cancel out all the benefits of sea and fresh air.
But that is what distinguishes Sanditon from places like Brighton and Hastings. It is not yet a place of gluttony that comes with a large influx of the rich, but for someone who really desires to improve their health, well, Sanditon is designed by nature for the resort of the invalid. I say, are you free for dinner tonight? I would be most happy to acquaint you with all the particulars of our town.
Why, I suppose. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Oh, it will just be a small party, my own family and the Miss Heywoods.
I shall look forward to it.
The doctor leaves.
Tom?
Yes?
I have seen Dr. Jones somewhere before, and I am sure I had a very bad impression of him.
Oh, surely not. He comes highly recommended by Dr. Ford, and he is a proponent of sea bathing. But his name is Jonas, not Jones.
That's it! He was the clerk at the apothecary shop. He must be a relative of young Mr. Jonas.
Is he?
He certainly does not have the manners of his elders. He was quite impertinent to me when I went to collect Morgan's medicine.
Was he now? How strange. Some of these medical men are very strange.
Strange that he should work as a common clerk when he's a trained doctor. I wonder if he truly is a doctor. Perhaps he's only an apothecary masquerading as a physician.
Oh, come, Diana. How could you think so?
He is so different from any other physician I have ever met. Dr. Ford is so gracious, so unassuming. I do not approve of how this young man delivers his opinions. He is intolerably rude. And I don't think you should have anything to gain by talking of him to Sanditon.
But he may send some rich invalids our way. You must help me to persuade him.
He will not listen to anything I say, to be sure.
Susanna will not stay to dinner if you do not. You must stay and help me host.
Well, for your sake, I suppose I may. Though his attendance will induce the privation of all my enjoyment.
Thank you, Diana. You know how much I appreciate your efforts for Sanditon.
Tom gives Diana a quick kiss on the cheek before hurrying off to find the chef. That night, Dr. Jonas eats dinner with the Parkers.
You look rather done in, Dr. Jonas. Have you had a difficult day?
Yes, I'm afraid I've not had a very happy one.
Contrary people rarely do.
But that is part of the job, I suppose. I'm sorry to hear of it. I hope our company may cheer you tonight.
I noticed that you have a pianoforte. Are you fond of music, Mr. Parker?
Why, yes, I take great delight in music. My wife plays, as does my sister Diana and the Miss Heywoods.
I envy you. My mother used to accompany me when my father and I would sing. We enjoyed it very much.
Ah, well, let us hear you sing tonight, then.
I'm not so vain as to believe you would fancy my voice when you are accustomed to hearing trained voices on the stage. But if someone were to accompany me, I might venture a song. In fact, it would give me a great deal of pleasure to make music again.
I am sure one of the ladies would be happy to oblige you.
Diana stares at her plate. Alison is not attending the conversation. Charlotte hesitates.
My own talent on the piano is not worth mentioning, but Alison is very accomplished.
Indeed. You enjoy music then, Miss Alison?
I do enjoy it very much.
Splendid. For I will not sing without a pianoforte accompaniment.
After dinner, Dr. Jonas sings with Alison's accompaniment. For this enjoyable offering, the onlookers clap with exuberance.
That was capital, Miss Alison. You play very well. Ah, here is a book of Clementi. Do you know his sonatinas?
I know a few, but this is Miss Diana's music.
Oh, Miss Diana. Sonatina number 3 is my particular favourite. Do you know it?
I have not played them in a while. I do not think I could do them justice.
Oh, I'm sure you could play it better than I. I would love to hear it again.
You would notice the blemish to exclusion of the beauty, I'm afraid.
Your fear is indeed an unfounded one. I find great pleasure in all music, regardless of the performer's expertise. It is only those who have no enjoyment in music that I despise. In fact, it is my firm belief that a person not musical is fit for every sort of wickedness.
Perhaps you would find me wicked if you heard me play.
Oh, come now, Diana, you play very well. Let the good doctor hear the piece.
Good doctor! Some other time, perhaps. I do not play under duress.
I am sorry that you consider my presence as duress.
I am sure Diana is only saying that she does not perform to strangers, and nor do I. But I'm glad you do not have that aversion, Dr. Jonas.
Here, here, let us hear another tune, Jonas.
Perhaps another day. I would not want to tax your sister's sensibilities.
Diana turns her face away at that remark. Alison retreats from the piano and sits down nearby. Dr. Jonas follows her, seating himself in an adjacent chair.
Have you ever heard Mr. Clementi perform?
Indeed I have. I enjoyed it very much. Have you?
I've not had that pleasure.
Diana, Tom, Susanna and Charlotte, seated on the other side of the room, watch as Dr. Jonas pulls his chair closer and closer to Alison's as they delve into a deeper discussion of their mutual love of Clementi and Mozart.
Diana, what is wrong? I've never seen you treat a guest like this.
I cannot help it. The man is an impostor. I distinctly heard Dr. Ford say his name was Jones, not Jonas. This man is no more than a lowly clerk, at most an apothecary, pretending to be a doctor. I doubt he knows even the most rudimentary remedy, let alone something new like autumn crocus. And he dares to contradict my medical advice. I, who have treated my own family and friends, and myself, very successfully for years.
Yes, yes, Diana, calm yourself. There is no doubt that we have all benefited from your knowledge of medicine, but surely Dr. Ford's recommendation of the man carries some weight.
This man is so accomplished in the art of deception, I fear he's fooled even Dr. Ford. I pity poor Miss Allison for having to entertain him. He is certainly sitting very close to her. I am sure her parents would not approve of such familiarity. Are they even in separate chairs?
Yes, surely. Well, at least I think they are in separate chairs.
At the end of the evening, Morgan attends Dr. Jonas, Tom, and the Parker sisters to the front hall. His limp is barely noticeable.
And how is the Colchicum autumnale working for you, Morgan?
What?
The autumn crocus.
Oh, yes. I feel much better since I started taking it. Miss Diana takes prodigious care of me.
I can see that she does. It is a very new treatment. Seems very effective from what I can tell. I've given it to several of my patients with excellent results.
Morgan helps Dr. Jonas on with his coat.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, for a most excellent evening. I hope I may hear Miss Diana play in the future. I have no doubt that she is as accomplished as you claim.
I am sure you shall, and I hope you will consider visiting us in Sanditon next summer.
I have always wanted to see the ocean.
Then you must come.
Well, you will not regret it, Dr. Jonas. Medical men always find much to recommend in Sanditon.
Susanna speaks the truth.
I have no doubt. Before I go, Mr. Parker, I recall there is a confidential matter I need to discuss with you.
Oh, of course. I am sure my sisters will excuse us.
Good night, Dr. Jonas.
Dr. Jonas confers with Tom about the domestic arrangements of Mrs. Mifflin and her baby. Afterwards, he again prepares to go and looks for his hat.
Your wife is asking for you, sir?
Thank you, Morgan. And will you send Mrs. Mifflin to me? I need to have a word.
Certainly, sir.
Diana comes into the entryway with Dr. Jonas's hat.
I believe this is yours, sir.
Is this, here's your hat, what's your hurry?
You were at the point of going, were you not?
Miss Diana, I want to apologise for how hard I was on you the day we met in my father's shop. Dr. Ford has since told me the great help you have been to your own family in nursing your brother through his childhood illnesses. I am willing to admit that your passion for better health has proved worthwhile in some cases.
You quite knocked me down with your generosity of your concession, Mr. Jonas.
Come now. You must admit that your fancy does carry you away some of the time.
And when was that, pray? Was it when I nursed Arthur through his childhood asthma? Or when I gave Morgan the colloquium autumnale so that he can walk more easily than he has in years? Or was it when I stayed up night after night with little Jenny when she had the croup?
No, of course not.
I may not have a license to practice medicine, but at least I do not make the pretense that I do. Where is your medical certificate, Mr. Jonas?
I do not have it yet.
I thought as much.
Because I left school as soon as exams were over to take over Dr. Ford's patients. My certificate should come by post any day now.
I look forward to seeing it, if indeed you are telling the truth.
I always tell the truth, which does not always serve me well. I will bid you good night.
Good night, Mr. Jonas.
Dr. Jonas departs and Diana comes back to where Tom and Susanna are conversing.
What was Dr. Jonas saying about the baby?
The baby? Oh, he was speaking of Mrs. Mifflin's little boy. Her sister has been giving him laudanum drops to keep him quiet because he is so hungry. She nearly gave him too much.
Oh, the poor little dear.
He wants me to let Mrs. Mifflin keep her baby with her here. It's not customary, but how can I refuse?
I think you are quite right, Tom. Perhaps that is why the doctor was not in good spirits tonight.
Yes, that. And he told me he lost a patient today. I think, Diana, it would be best not to mention your ailments to Dr. Jonas. He deals with death on a daily basis, and it must be a little taxing to hear someone say they are ill when they have such energy as you do.
You do not have to worry, Tom. I will not be troubling Mr. Jonas for any advice on my maladies. He has made it abundantly clear that he thinks I am lying when I say I am really very ill. He may be the most infuriating man I have ever met, and I am sure he is only an apothecary.
At Bedford Place, Charlotte tries to coax Mary to eat. She is still extremely weak from childbirth and has not left the bed.
Try to take some broth, Mary.
I'm hungry.
For the baby's sake. For Tom's. He's worried about you. Please, please try.
Mary takes a small sip and falls back on the pillow.
I just want to sleep.
Another spoonful and I will leave you.
But Mary is already sleeping again. Charlotte puts the bowl back onto the tray and sighs. Diana Parker comes in.
And how is my dear sister this morning, Charlotte?
She's still very weak. She eats almost nothing.
Diana opens the curtains. Mary winces but does not open her eyes.
This is better. Nothing like a dose of sunlight to give vim and vitality. Dr. Ford always recommends as much sunshine as possible. How is it that the blinds are always closed?
I supposed it would be easier for her to sleep.
That is true, my dear Miss Heywood, but the time has come to awaken.
Rather hard when we cannot sleep at night.
Yes, I see how it is. You and your poor sister must be completely worn out. I saw her with her head down on the nursery table when I went to visit the children. Something must be done.
Tom comes in and kisses his sister as a greeting.
Tom, you simply cannot go on this way. Mary is wasting away. She hardly eats a thing. And Charlotte and Alison are completely knocked up. They came to London for the season, not to be nursemaids. They are young, and we must not waste such faces and figures as theirs.
I know, Diana, but what could I do?
I have an idea. Mother always said I was an excellent nurse. Let me come to Mary. I will bring my maid, and between us we will manage the children and help Mary regain her strength.
That is indeed generous of you, Diana. Very generous. The Heywoods have been of immense help, but they are wearing out, Alison especially. The lack of sleep on top of her grief concerns me greatly.
Then let them come to Park Place for a complete rest cure. Susanna will be very glad to have some young company, I am sure. And they may help entertain Lady Denham. My sister is not much of a talker, as you know, Tom, and any addition of conversation will be very welcome when I am not there to supply it.
Are you so very tired, Charlotte?
Yes. But I would not want to inconvenience Miss Parker. She hardly knows us.
Oh, Susie will not mind. I am only sorry to lose your company. I do not want you to feel as if we have turned you out.
Tom, have you seen the dark circles under these poor girls' eyes? It would be for the best if they go to Park Place. They can rest and shop with Lady Denham, and Susanna can play the harp for them in the evenings.
But can you do without us, Mr. Parker? I do not like to leave Mary when she is so ill.
Do not worry, Charlotte. I want you and Alison to have a good time in London, not to wear yourselves out as you have for the last few weeks. Diana has great powers of organization, and she is a wonderful nurse.
I have been ill so many times myself. I feel I am amply qualified to supervise the recovery of my dear, dear sister.
All right, then. Well, thank you, Miss Parker.
Please call me Diana, my dear girl. You have been so good to my brother. You are as near as family as could be.
Thank you, then, Diana. And please, call me Charlotte.
The girls arrive at Park Place the next morning, the townhouse that's been in the Parker family for the past 25 years. Here, Miss Parker, Diana and Arthur live most of the year when they're not in Bath or Sanditon. The furnishings are decades old, and the house contains many family heirlooms and portraits. Miss Susanna Parker meets them in the hall.
Oh, my dears, do come in. Put down your parcels. Here is a place for them on the hall table. I know you will want to rest. I have told Lady Denham that you are both in a great need of rest, and she has gone out shopping. Let me take your bundle, Miss Heywood. Dear me, Miss Allison, how fagged you look. Come to the fire and rest a moment before I take you to your room.
Thank you, Miss Parker. Do not trouble yourself on my account. I would be glad to lay down on a bed as soon as I may.
Yes, that would be best, I am sure. Shall I send Maisie with tea and toast to your room?
That would be nice, thank you.
How is dear Mary this morning?
She took a whole cup of broth for Diana. I think she's feeling better.
Susanna leads them very slowly upstairs to their room and pauses on the steps as she elaborates on her health. The girls note the family portraits as they climb the stairs and listen to Susanna's ramble.
Diana will put her right, I am sure. She has nursed Arthur through countless colds and fevers. By next week, Mary will take her place at the dinner table, I have no doubt.
The doctor said it would take weeks to recover. He says she is anemic.
He said that? Well, I suppose he knows. I have lost a great deal of blood over the years. 14 leech treatments just in the last year. It weakened me prodigiously. But I would rather be weak than really ill. We must make sacrifices for our health, you know. I dare say Diana will have her up well before Dr. Jones expects.
Oh, I do hope so. He seems a very good doctor.
Well, Diana had her doubts about Dr. Jones, but if Dr. Ford recommends him, I do not think she can oppose him long. But I must tell you, other than good Dr. Tilbridge and Dr. Ford, we have almost gone off doctors entirely, Miss Heywood, since my illness, owing to my teeth. We went from doctor to doctor, and finally I was done. Diana, I said, if I do not part with these teeth, they will be the death of me. And what do you think? As soon as they were out, I was well. Now that portrait, Miss Heywood, is my grandfather Butterfield. Do you see the scar on his hand?
Is it from the war?
A nasty dog bite. She was a spiteful little pug, but then he did tease her, and some dogs will not be teased. Now, where was I?
Your teeth.
Oh, yes, of course. I was in tremendous pain. One does not part with one's teeth without feeling it, but Diana gave me her special clove oil. The Parkers have a recipe for centuries, and I was right as rain just 6 weeks later.
Just 6 weeks?
Yes.
I suppose it would take a while to recover from 3 extractions.
Just so, Miss Heywood. Perhaps I gave too severe an impression on our view of physicians, for we do still occasionally consult a surgeon. Now and again, it is only right to give them some business, but we do feel that we have exhausted the treatment of our good English physicians. We have had every disease and condition imaginable between the two of us, and we have tried all the known remedies, yet we remain very ill.
You don't say.
Yes, but it is fascinating to hear what is done abroad. We have reason to hope that something has already been discovered in some foreign land. Diana and Arthur discovered a Dr. Maffus since they came from Sanditon, but he was a disappointment. Diana can spot a quack faster than you can say Jack Robinson. I understand Diana was very impressed with the doctor Tom brought to Sanditon. German, I believe. He has some interesting ideas. Diana's had a bee in her bonnet for a shower bath ever since.
She is not afraid of being scolded like Miss Brereton.
Oh, well, we have had much discussion on that point, and we are of the opinion that Miss Brereton must not have followed Dr. Fuchsia's directions to the letter. And even if there were a slight risk of injury, I am sure the benefits far outweigh it. We must bear the ill of the cure to cure the ill. Diana came up with that. Do you not think it clever?
It is clever.
And so true. I've given you the impression that we never see a doctor nowadays, which is entirely true. But dear Dr. Tilbridge, I cannot wholly give him up, or he would not be able to pay his coal through the winter. Diana prefers Dr. Ford, but she sees him only 3 times a week, at most. Though last week it was 4 times. And now that he is retired, she will surely cut it down to 2, but we engage them solely to advance the medical profession. We could easily treat ourselves if we did not feel that we were depriving the field of such unique and interesting cases. Interesting in terms of science, you understand. Not that Dr. Tilbridge finds me interesting, dear me. No. And that picture right there is my cousin Josephine. Does she not have the palest of skin? She is the great beauty in our family.
Aye, what a large bonnet she has.
All the better to keep the sun off, she always says.
I cannot even see her face.
And that is how she has kept such alabaster skin. But my uncle was not happy with the artist when he saw the portrait. He never asked him back, but it was not his fault that my cousin would not take off her bonnet for the sitting. She was deathly afraid of freckles. Now here I am talking, and you are entirely done in. Here is your room. It will be glad to be occupied again. We've had no company outside of Tom and Mary for 10 years. Yes, I believe Mrs. Campion was our last guest here, before Lady Denham. She was Eliza Lightwick then. She came to us on her first season in London. We thought surely she would marry Sidney, and that would have been such a thing for Tom. Her brother was quite enraptured with Sanditon. He talked of building a house on the hill so they could have a cliff-top view. Yes, Miss Allison, go ahead and lay down on the bed. Dear me, I would talk on. You must excuse me, but I do so enjoy company. Miss Heywood, when I feel well enough to converse. It is such a blessing that you did not come yesterday. I was as hoarse as a donkey. You could not have made head nor tail of anything I said. But what was I saying?
Mr. Lightwig?
Oh yes, Mr. Lightwick was to build a house in Sanditon, and that would have been a very good thing for Tom's speculation. Tom always says, where one builds, others will follow. But it was not to be, for Eliza married Mr. Campion, who had 20,000 a year. We were so sorry for Sidney. He was quite undone. Tom had to stay with him until he was sure he would not do himself harm.
Was he in great danger?
Well, Tom thought so, and that is saying a great deal, for Tom sees the sunny side no matter how stormy it may be. Diana and I are the realists. Sidney would not eat, and my suspicion is that he was drinking a little too much of Diana's good wine. Everything in moderation, you know. Well, here is your tea. Oh, goodness, have I been talking this long? Maisie, did the water come to a full boil?
Yes, ma'am.
And did it steep?
Yes, ma'am.
For 5 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it looks strong enough. Pardon me, Miss Heywood. If I have talked too much, I will leave you to your rest. Maisie, you will help them unpack when they are ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose portrait is this above the fireplace?
Oh, bless me, that was my mother. I prefer it to the newer one downstairs. Sidney asked to have it in his room. He was at Oxford when she passed, and that made it the hardest on him.
This was Mr. Sidney's room?
His and Tom's. They have been such chums since they were boys. We had it refurbished since then, and now it is the nicest room in the house. It has a better view than my room or Diana's. I do not need a view. I am so much in bed due to my ill health, but men need to see the outside or they feel too closed in. Do you like it?
Yes, thank you. It looks very comfortable.
I will leave you then. Dinner is at 4. Lady Denham and I agree that an early dinner hour is best. It leaves time for proper digestion.
Charlotte closes the door, sits down on one of the beds and takes a sip of tea.
Is she gone? I thought she would never have done.
I do not think she drew breath since we came.
Will it bother you to sleep in Sidney's old room?
I'm so tired, I do not care which bed I am in, as long as I can have some peace and quiet.
Before Charlotte can finish, there's a quick rap at the door and Susanna comes back in.
Oh, I thought I would just bring up this oil that helps ease the tension in one's head. I usually take it before bed, but it will not hurt to use a drop or two on your temples now. Is the fire warm enough?
Yes, it is fine, thank you.
Do you need anything else? A dish of broth, perhaps?
Charlotte looks at Alison, but she's already asleep.
No, the tea is fine.
And a toast. Is there enough butter?
Just right, thank you.
You see, Arthur takes too much butter. So we have told Maisie not to serve too much on the tray, but it may not be enough for you. You look as if you could use a little butter. Shall I just step down and have Maisie bring you some more?
No, you have been most kind indeed. I prefer my toast with precisely this amount of butter.
Yes, I can see I am troubling you too much. Do not mind me, Miss Heywoods. I hope you will not mind me. I am so glad you have come. Lady Denham does not prefer conversation unless she is doing the talking. Well, I'm being ungracious. It is to be expected of such a great lady. I wonder she wants to stay with us at all. But I'm so glad you are come. I shall leave you then, if there is nothing else. Just ring the bell if you need something, and Maisie will answer. She is a very good girl. Her family has served us for years.
Once Susanna is gone, Charlotte closes the door once more and lies down.
Do you believe it was quieter at Bedford Place?
A week later, Charlotte and Alison are eating breakfast at Park Place.
I do not think I shall go with you to see Mary this morning.
It would do you good to get out. You have not been anywhere for days. We can take the carriage.
I'm just so tired. I do not want to do anything.
It will cheer Mary to see you. She sees no one but Diana.
You are all the cheer she needs. Give her my love.
Perhaps it is for the best. You need your strength for the ball tonight.
Oh, I cannot go to the ball.
But Mary bought you that beautiful gown before Christmas. You must go.
I may if I feel better tonight, but I really dread going to a ball. I know only the Beauforts and Miss Lamb. No one will want to dance with me.
Nonsense. There has never been a ball where you wanted a partner.
But they were all in Willingdon.
You can be sure that Mr. Parker will introduce you to more people than you care to dance with.
It will be a miracle if I should have the first set. Will he stay all night, do you think?
I will ask him if we may come home after supper.
Lady Denham enters during their conversation. She sits down to the breakfast table and the servant pours her tea.
What's this? Are you speaking of the Beauforts' ball?
Yes, Mum. Only we were hoping to come home early on account of Alison's fatigue.
It must not be too early. You must give as much encouragement as you can to the Beaufort family. They are a large family. If we can persuade them all to come to Sanditon next summer, we may have some regular tenants for several years. It's the families that will take the large houses, not the infirm widows and gouty curmudgeons. Tom Parker and I see things very differently when it comes to the type of people we want to draw to Sanditon.
Alison stares blankly ahead without hearing, and Charlotte looks at her with concern.
However, I do have an early appointment at the milliner's tomorrow, and Mr. Beaufort will not take it amiss if I take my leave early. Miss Alison may come back with me, and you, Miss Heywoods, will stay and dance, and use your charm to get the young men down to Sanditon. Will that suit you?
I do love to dance.
Excellent. We understand one another then.
The next afternoon, Diana is playing the pianoforte at Bedford Place when Morgan announces a visitor.
Dr. Jonas is here to see Miss Parker. Yes?
Thank you, Morgan. I will show him up.
Dr. Jonas appears at the door behind Morgan.
Ah, Sonatina number 3. How light and airy you make it sound, Miss Parker. Your brother did not exaggerate when he said you played well.
Is it number 3? I did not realize. I am playing through them all. I hope you realize, Mr. Jonas, that I see easily through flattery, along with all other forms of falsehood.
Can you indeed?
Oh, yes. I have a very keen eye for spotting a counterfeit.
Keen eyes generally find exactly what they want to see. What you want to believe has a good deal to do with the truth you choose to see.
What I want to believe has nothing to do with it.
Does it not? What if I told you that you are a specimen of perfect health? That, if you were to put all your medicine on the rubbish heap and find another diversion for your energy, that you would be doing your health a far greater favour than you do by running to a string of physicians?
Mr. Jonas, I have been ill my whole life. I shall not stand here and listen to a perfect stranger tell me I'm not.
Am I a stranger? I've known you by my father's report for years. Even on the days you believed yourself at death's door, you still managed to stop by on an errand for your maid, your brother, or for someone. Now, how could you really be that ill?
You know nothing of the matter.
What I see before me is a young woman who is so convinced of her blemishes, shall we say, that she cannot see that she is, on the whole, beautifully healthy. But if she were to give up looking for the blemishes, she might find life unusually dull, for she needs employment, even more so than the usual accomplished young lady. Have I made a correct assessment?
You are beyond impertinence, sir, to give your opinion of your betters without invitation.
I have offended you, Miss Diana. I do sometimes say more than I ought. Forgive me. Perhaps I could see Mrs. Parker now?
I dare say you know the way.
I do prefer that you accompany me, since Mr. Parker is not at home. Besides, I have a new gadget that might be of interest to someone whose mind takes a medical turn.
I doubt it.
Diana grudgingly leads the way upstairs. She opens Mary's door to find her sitting up in bed, holding baby Lily, with Charlotte looking on.
Well now, this does look promising. You are looking well, Mrs. Parker.
Diana is turning to leave when baby Lily starts to cry.
Oh, she's hungry. Oh dear. Let's take her to the nurse, Charlotte.
Would you like me to take her?
No, I will, if you wouldn't mind staying with Mary.
Charlotte takes the baby out of the room, while Diana reluctantly takes her place beside the bed. Dr. Jonas takes a small wooden tube out of his doctor's bag.
A new toy, Mr. Jonas.
Yes, one of those fancy new kaleidoscopes.
Is it really?
No, it is a stethoscope. It was invented in France last year.
He holds out the wooden tube to show Diana.
With it, you may hear the heart and lung sounds very clearly. Would you like to try it?
How does one use it?
Well, let me demonstrate. May I listen to your heart, Mrs. Parker?
Of course.
Dr. Jonas sits down on the bed and auscultates Mary's heartbeat. He then hands the stethoscope to Diana. As she listens, her eyes widen.
I can hear it so distinctly.
Yes, exactly. One can hear every swish, every beat, every murmur. It will revolutionize the diagnosis of heart disorders. Mrs. Parker, I declare you are making a fine recovery.
I do feel much better. Diana has been my cure.
Has she now?
Sometimes my heart skips a beat. Do you think something is wrong with me?
Well, as a mere apothecary, I may not be qualified to diagnose.
Dr. Jones stands up, takes the stethoscope from Diana and puts it into his doctor's bag.
But if you do have a
stethoscope? Yes, but I suggest that you ask a qualified physician to listen so that a proper diagnosis can be made.
Would you mind listening to it?
Dr. Jonas smiles and retrieves his stethoscope. He listens for several moments to Diana's heartbeat. Mary looks on the whole time, amused.
Yes, very strong. It's a nice, steady rhythm. Quite a rapid pace, though, and on the increase.
What does that mean?
Absolutely nothing. Your heart is perfectly fine. There are many good reasons for a rapid heart rate. If you take a moment to relax, the pace will slacken.
But why is it so rapid?
When one is under pressure, or shall we say, duress, the heart tends to accelerate to cope with the danger, or whatever is causing the mind to be anxious.
But I'm not in danger. I'm not anxious.
Are you not? You're worried about a heart condition that you do not have. And may I remind you that you accused me of causing you duress the other night.
But
there is no need to reprise the conversation. I shall take my leave, and I guarantee your heart rate will return to normal.
If you say so, Mr. Jonas.
Ah, I knew you would acknowledge my credentials someday. I had no idea it would be this soon.
But I didn't.
Mrs. Parker will bear me out. You did use the word doctor.
And so you did, Diana.
Mrs. Parker, I will see you again in a few days. And Miss Diana, your talent on the pianoforte was not exaggerated. If I could bottle your music, I would prescribe it to all my patients. I hope to have the pleasure of hearing you again.
Thank you.
I will show myself out.
No sooner has Dr. Jonas left than Morgan shows in Dr. Ford.
Dr. Ford, so nice to see you again. Dr. Jonas was just here.
Oh, yes, I saw him on the way out. This is just a social call. I miss all my favourite patients already.
I am glad you came.
As am I. I wish you were not retired so soon.
Yes. Some days I wish that myself. I have fond memories of calls at the Parkers, including the best toasted crumpets I ever tasted in the middle of the night. But all good things must come to an end. I'm too old to be going out at night. I've been telling Dr. Jonas, I should say, about the time you and your sister nursed Arthur through the scarlet fever. It was quite impressive not to have any lasting effects there.
We did our best, but it takes more than that to impress Dr. Jonas. If I had resurrected Lazarus, he would still take no notice of my ability.
Oh, Miss Diana, you were too hard on him. He is an excellent physician. He graduated at the top of his class from University of Edinburgh. He reminds me of a classmate I used to have by the name of Jones. Smart as a whip and poor as a church mouse. He made a very fine doctor. And Jonas will as well. Did he show you that new French contraption?
Yes. He says I have a very rapid heart rate. Should I be worried?
Oh, no, Miss Diana. You are in better health than I have ever seen you. I am thankful to turn my patients over to someone as qualified as Dr. Jonas. Did you know that he is the first person to use this new, what do you call it, in London?
You don't say. So you do not think I need to be concerned about my heart?
No, not at all.
Dr. Ford takes Diana's pulse.
Your heart rate is within normal range. The heartbeat is very dependent upon the level of excitement one is under at the moment the pulse is taken. You have nothing to worry about.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. Shall I see you on Friday as usual?
You are welcome to visit me at any time, Miss Parker. But I will ask you that you consult with Dr. Jonas on any medical issues and on matters of the heart.
If you insist, Dr. Ford. But I would much rather come to you.
That night, Alison reluctantly gets dressed for the Beaufort ball with the help of Maisie. She accompanies Charlotte, Susanna and Lady Denham to the lavish home of the Beauforts. Tom is in his element, hobnobbing with rich Londoners in need of a summer home in a seaside town. He walks about with Charlotte in one arm and Alison on the other, introducing them to every friend and new acquaintance. By the time he's done, Alison and Charlotte have multiple offers to dance. Tom encourages Charlotte to dance with Sydney's friend, Mr. Tracy, and she acquiesces. Tracy leads her to the dance floor.
You are looking well tonight, Miss Heywood. I divine you must love to dance.
Yes, indeed. I think I am not alone in that inclination.
Your sister, I think, does not share your enjoyment of the exercise.
No. She has been out of spirits since her intended died last November.
I remember hearing of it. Such a cloud over her first season, it is a pity. But it is such a point of interest that she will receive rather more consideration than she might otherwise. To be almost widowed is a decided advantage.
She would never use such a tragic event as a means of gaining attention.
Of course not, and we admire her all the more for it. Shows her passionate heart, and notice will be taken, whether she tries for it or not.
I thought you were going to Antigua with Mr. Parker.
That had been my intention, but on the day of departure, my aunt grew dangerously ill. I earnestly believed she was on her deathbed. I could not leave her. Fortunately, she rallied, though she is not completely out of danger.
Conversation pauses while they focus on the intricacies of the dance. They find themselves in the same set with Mrs. Campion, who's dancing with Tom Parker.
Do you know Mrs. Campion well?
Not well. She does not have an open temperament like yours, but I think she would be a woman well worth knowing.
Surely, as Mr. Parker's friend, she will be your friend as well.
I have no doubt you are right. In time.
The dance ends and the crowd politely applauds. Mrs. Campion approaches them. She gives a slight bow to Mr. Tracy and a cold nod to Charlotte.
Miss Heywood. Mr. Tracy.
Delighted to see you, Mrs. Campion. It was a pleasure to see such a graceful performance of the Allemande.
I regret that I have been out when you called. I've had so much to do, fitting up the hall for when Sydney returns.
I thought perhaps you would take an estate near Sanditon.
Oh no, I am quite at home in Everley. I could not leave it.
I do not blame you. Its grandeur is known far and wide.
Sydney will love it. We have the best hunting within a day's journey from London.
I'm jealous already.
Arthur comes to claim Charlotte for the next dance. Mr. Tracy looks over at the crowd, apparently looking for a dance partner. Mrs. Campion studies him for a second and turns to go.
Mrs. Campion?
Yes?
You are too fatigued to dance. Shall I get you some punch?
No, indeed. The ball has just started. But without Sydney, I have no inclination to dance.
Would you honor me, madam?
If you need a partner, I suppose I may oblige.
Mr. Tracy leads her onto the dance floor, and the dance begins. An hour later, a servant approaches Charlotte and informs her that someone would like to speak to her in an adjoining room. He leads her to where a well-dressed lady is seated.
Lady Susan!
Charlotte! I was hoping I would see you. Have you had enough dancing for tonight?
I suppose so. It is not quite as much fun to dance with strangers.
As with the one you love.
I did not see you in the ballroom. Do you not enjoy dancing?
It all depends on one's partner. I understand your Mr. Parker has sailed off to Antigua?
He is not my Mr. Parker. You have probably heard that he is engaged to Mrs. Campion.
I did hear something of that nature, but do not give up, Charlotte. There is hope. Until he is wed. After that, it becomes a little more complicated.
What do you mean?
Never mind. I would not have you follow my example. but do take this advice. Charlotte, never submit to the misery of being bound without love. Bound to one and preferring another. That is a punishment you do not deserve. However, in your Mr. Parker's case, I'm talking to the wrong person.
You need not worry about me, Lady Susan.
Someone must. I wonder, Charlotte, would you come to stay with me for a few days? Your goodness and enthusiasm would be a welcome change to the people I generally see.
Thank you. That is most kind. I would have to ask the Parkers, of course.
Oh, of course. Would you care to take a turn around the room, Miss Heywood? There are a few people to whom I would like to introduce you.
The next morning after the ball, Tom is talking with Mary in her bedroom while she eats breakfast, and Diana straightens the room.
Such a splendid ball, my dear. I met 3 new families. They were quite enraptured with my description of Sanditon. I only wish Sydney had been there. We could have covered twice the territory.
Did the girls have a good time?
Oh, yes, at least I think they did, most of the time. Tracy was there, and he danced with them both. They were worn out by midnight, so they must have danced a great deal.
What kind of man is Mr. Tracy? I do not know him well.
Everyone thinks him quite the dandy. Indeed, I think the ladies prefer him almost as much as they do Sydney.
He seems to have a lot of connections.
Indeed, he does. I'd say he looks out for Sydney's interests better than Sydney does himself. He danced 2 sets with Mrs. Campion.
That may invite some gossip.
Oh, I think he was just being pleasant. They could both talk of Sydney, you know. That must give enjoyment to them both. Mr. Tracy was the talk of the ball. Everywhere I went, it was Tracy this and Tracy that. We shall have to get him down to Sanditon for the summer.
I'm glad you had a good time, dear, but I miss you. I think I feel strong enough to come down to dinner tonight.
Oh, that is wonderful, darling. But I think you'd better not. Dr. Ford said several weeks' rest, you know, and I told Mrs. Campion I would come to her card party tonight. Tracy will be there, and one of the families I mentioned.
Oh.
Do you know, I have invitations for almost every night this week. Things are looking up, Mary. I think Sanditon will be full next summer.
Stay if the terrace is not ready.
Oh, there are plenty of cottages in the old village, and Prospect Place has never yet been full.
The nurse brings the baby in, and Mary takes her into her arms.
Is she not beautiful, Tom?
Oh, yes, she has your eyes. But what do you think, Mary? Shall I try to get Tracy down for the summer? Would it not be expedient?
Of course, if you say so. Do you notice how her hair curls up so nicely?
I cannot say that I did. I thought it rather straight.
I'm speaking of the baby, Tom.
Oh, yes, quite. Oh, she is a fine child, Mary.
Your hair was curly when you were a boy. Mother always said you were such a pretty child.
Really? I do not recall that. When Sydney came along, we all became plain Janes.
Speak for yourself, Tom. I was pretty enough in my day. But I could not see burdening any man with ill health such as mine.
Oh, of course, Diana. You are still very pretty. In fact, Lord Grasmere was asking about you the other day. He is a very respectable gentleman.
But Tom, he must be at least 60.
True, but a handsome 60. He is planning to go to Bath this summer for his feet, but he promised that if he feels well enough, he will come to Sanditon afterwards.
Does he have the gout? I did not realize. He must start taking autumn crocus. It has done Morgan a world of good.
So it has. Oh, Diana, I did invite Dr. Jonas for Thursday night this week, so I hope you can persuade Arthur and Susanna to come as well. Dr. Ford has nothing but the highest praise for him. If he can persuade his patients to come to Sanditon, it would really be remarkable. Lady Denham could sell them the milk from her asses, and surely they would rent the bathing machines.
Oh, Tom, surely Sanditon does not need Mr. Jonas when Dr. Fuchs is already there?
I don't want Dr. Jonas in Sanditon. I want him here, sending London to Sanditon. He's made quite a sensation among the beau mondes. I would not call him handsome, but several do, and he doesn't seem to mind telling people exactly what he thinks of them, and that's rather a novelty here. His client list is growing longer by the day. I think he may be the key to getting people down to Sanditon.
My dear, you think everyone is the key. First it was Sydney's friends, then Dr. Fuchs, then Lady Susan. Just a minute ago it was Tracy.
Yes, dear, they are all important. But what can it hurt to have Dr. Jonas to dinner?
If he comes, then I will also come down.
All right, Mary, but only if you feel completely well that day.
That night, Mary insists on coming to the table for the first time with Diana and Tom's help.
It is so good to be out of the bedroom. Just think, it's been 2 months since I came to dinner.
Hope it is not too soon.
I'm glad to have you with us, my dear. We have missed you at our dinners.
What dinners? You've been gone out to dinner almost every night.
But that will change now that you are gaining strength.
Morgan announces Dr. Jonas, and he comes into the room.
Dr. Jonas, we were expecting you Thursday.
Oh, well, I'm very sorry. I must have mistaken the date of the invitation. I beg pardon. I will come back on Thursday.
No, stay. Sit down. You see how well Mrs. Parker is. You must stay and help us celebrate her first dinner downstairs.
Well, thank you. You are too kind. I can see that you look very well, Mrs. Parker. But I do confess that I'm not very good company tonight. I've had several sad cases this week. I thought perhaps dinner with the Parkers would take my mind from it for a while, but I do not want to trouble you since you were not expecting me. Perhaps Thursday would be better.
No, I think you must stay, Dr. Jonas.
Do you think so?
I do. Perhaps a little music after dinner will relieve your spirits?
It might.
I believe I have the third sonatina under my fingers again. Would that not be worth your staying for?
Indeed, I'm sure it would.
Morgan, another place for Dr. Jonas, if you please.
Thank you for watching episode 5 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Join us next week to see which two ladies have had enough of London. For all of us at DIY Austen Drama, we bid you a pleasant week. Thank you.